Good evening. I call to order the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees of the Village of Burridge for Monday, July 26, 2021. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Schiappa.
Here.
Trustee Paveza.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Here.
Trustee Mattal. Here. Trustee Smith.
Here.
Mayor Grasso.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. Chief Madden is stepping forward. We will have our swearing in of our 4 new police officers. Chief, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor. Tonight I have 4 of our police officers appearing before you for our ceremonial swearing in. All 4 of these officers were sworn in at the police department last year before they reported to the police academy, and that's required by law. Normally, this event occurs after graduation from the police academy, but due to COVID last year, it was delayed till tonight until the board met in person. So, first, I'd like to introduce Officer Patrick Kelly. Come on up front. Family can come up and take pictures right up front here. Don't be shy. Clerk Shouse. Officer Patrick Kelly was hired on June 24, 2020. He attended the Police Training Institute in Champaign, Illinois, and he completed field training in February of 2021 this year. Clerk Shouse.
Do you, Patrick Kelly, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer of the Village of Burridge to the best of your ability?
Congratulations.
Next up is Officer Travis Madler. Come on up front. Sergeant Madler, you want to come up front? You got to stand with your son there. Officer Madler was hired on June 24, 2020. He attended the Police Training Institute in Champaign, Illinois, and he completed his field training in February 2021. Clerk Shouse.
Do you, Travis Madler, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer of the Village of Burridge to the best of your ability?
Welcome. Congratulations.
Next, Officer Robert Demetro. Officer Demetro was hired September 9th of 2020. He attended the Suburban Law Enforcement Academy at the College of DuPage, and he completed his field training in June 2021. Clerk Shouse.
Do you, Robert Demetro, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer of the Village of Burridge to the best of your ability?
Congratulations.
Robert deserves a Perseverance Award. The Academy shut down probably 4 times. Am I right, or was it more?
3 times, about 3 months worth of downtime.
3 times, yeah. Extending them out about 3 months. So it was tough. Next, Officer Mary Murphy. Officer Murphy was hired October 7, 2020. She attended the Police Training Institute in Champaign, Illinois. She completed her FTO, Field Training Program, in May of 2021. Clerk Schaus.
Do you, Mary Murphy, solemnly swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer of the Village of Burridge to the best of your ability? Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor. We're done.
Thank you. How about a little footnote for the tall sergeant? How does he, where are you and where do you serve us?
I'm in Village of Western.
Good to know. Thank you. Okay, if the families of the officers wish to leave, you can leave. Go celebrate somewhere else and have more fun than you would be having here. Thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering what everybody was for. I knew we were swearing them in. I forgot about the families being.
Yeah.
Oh, they cleared the house. Here, Pressure.
Okay, that will take us to item 4, the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so request, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda, discussed by the board, opened for public comment, and voted upon during this meeting. Minutes. A, approval of regular board meeting of June 28, 2021. B, approval of Pathway Commission of July 14, 2021. And C, approval of Plan Commission of July 19, 2021. 6, ordinances. B, approval of an ordinance granting an amendment to PUD ordinance number A 834-15-20 to establish Phase 1 streetscape improvements, PCO2 2021, Burridge Village Center, Hassan. That will take us to 8, considerations. F, approval of a Plan Commission recommendation to approve a request for rezoning from R1 residential to R2A residential, Z10 2021 6547 County Line Road, Klein. G, approval of an award to Revise of Troy, Michigan for a new village website and related services in the amount of $17,460. H, approval of emergency purchase of services under an emergency declaration of trees, debris removal by Landscape Works of Bolingbrook, Illinois in the amount of $40,000 and by Kramer Tree Specialists of West Chicago, Illinois in the amount of $11,281. I, approval of emergency purchase of parts and services under an emergency declaration for electrical service restoration at the South Water Tower and Pump Station from RAGS, R-A-G-S, RAGS Electric of Woodbridge, Illinois, in the amount of $7,930.26. J, approval of recommendation to award contract for pedestrian bridge refinishing to Allied Painting Service of St. Charles, Illinois, in the amount of $12,900. K, approval of purchase
Removed,
of...
please.
K, removed?
Yes.
K, removed. Okay, it takes us to L. Approval of temporary sign replacements, placements requested by the Burridge Park District Foundation for the Pedal the Parks event on Sunday, September 12, 2021. M, accept and file letter of intent to retire of Police Records Coordinator Christina Henderson, and approval of vendor list dated July 12, 2021 in the amount of $924,750.09 for all funds plus $203,528.53 for payroll for the pay period ending June 26, 2021, for a grand total of $1,128,278.62, which includes special expenditures of $644,131.64 to Brothers Asphalt Paving for the 2021 road program, and O, approval of vendor list dated July 26, 2021 in the amount of $624,371.83 for all funds plus $199,028.31 for payroll for the pay period ending July 10, 2021 for a grand total of $823,400.14, which includes no special expenditures. Can I get a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? 5, A, B, and C, 6B, 8F, G, H, I, J, L, M, N, and O.
So moved.
So who moved?
I did.
And second by Schneider? Okay. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Let's go back to the one that Trustee Smith asked to be removed from the consent agenda. That would be item 8K. I'll read it into the record. Approval of purchase of parts and services for water valve repair assessment on the Bedford Park water transmission main from underground pipe and valve of Shorewood, Illinois, in amount of $31,238.60, and Unique Plumbing of Brookfield, Illinois, in the amount of $12,310. Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. It appears that the water main issue may have been caused by the expansion of the 294 tollway, and I'm just wondering, instead of the residents footing the bill, is there a way to have IDOT foot the bill, since it does appear to be part of the extension issue?
Evan, first of all, is the premise correct? Is the tollway? Or Dave? Go ahead, sorry.
Sure, I can answer that, trustee. It's a good question, fair question. The I-294 mile-long bridge is being reconstructed. As part of that work, we were relocating their main. That work has been under design and then coordination and then finally construction this last spring. In looking at our main and assessing which valves needed to be shut down, this one is over a mile away, closer to Willow Springs Road. So it's not related to the construction. It was just a valve that we were going to have to operate to shut off our existing main while that work was being undertaken until the new main was active. So it's unrelated. It's just a leak that developed, something we saw as we drove that path up to Willow Springs Road on the way to our main. So it's unrelated to the tollway construction. Good question.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Can you make a motion then for approval?
I'd like to make a motion to accept 8K, please.
Okay, that's a motion to approve the purchase. Do I get a second?
Second.
Second, Francis. Any discussion?
No.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Okay, that takes us back to 6 ordinances. Consideration of an ordinance amending sections 25.09 and 25.11 of Chapter 25 entitled Liquor Control of the Burridge Municipal Code. I ask that this be taken off the consent agenda before we publish the agenda because it does involve liquor control for licensing for several restaurants in the village, so I thought it should not be on the consent agenda. It normally would be, but I want Evan to give an explanation.
Thank you, Mayor. As you said, this is the approval of creating 4, or at least a revision of 4 total liquor licenses in our Liquor Control Code, Chapter 25 of the Municipal Code. The first is related to Patty's Cafe, who's seeking to revise their Class T license. Currently, Patty's serves liquor by liquor license permission from 7:30 to 2:30 p.m. on weekends only. They've had a sustained success from their weekend sales, and they've had a demand from their customers to expand this license to 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. They are currently the only holder of what we call the Class T license. So if an amendment was recommended or accepted, we would recommend simple modification of the Class D license to meet the applicant's needs while revising the fee up $500 from $1,000 to $1,500. There are 2 other restaurants, Are We Live and Johnny Cabs, that have been approved on a zoning basis. That is, they have special uses approved and ordinanced already to serve liquor. They are applying for Class H licenses. A Class H license is the standard restaurant license. So anytime you go to a standard full-service restaurant in the village, you are at a Class H establishment under our liquor ordinance. We are simply asking that they each get a license by creating 2 additional licenses for them specifically. Again, the protocol in the village of Burridge is only create enough licenses for the amount of applicants that we have on an annual basis. There are no spare licenses just waiting out there for people to come and get. Finally, Kohler Spa has applied for a Class B liquor license. A Class B is very similar to a restaurant, except it's a use that is within another use. So as an example, a restaurant within a hotel, a bistro within Kohler Spa, but it does serve food and it does serve alcohol if permitted. Kohler Spa had gotten a liquor license some years ago, but opted to, for a while, discontinue the service at their bistro, and they're bringing that service back, so we're pleased to see that the demand is there for that type of use. The Class H licenses and the Class B licenses are both $2,000 in total value annually. Again, these licenses will simply be created. If this ordinance were approved, it is then the duty of the liquor commissioner to assign these licenses in final at a later date. Here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Questions? All right, can I get a motion to approve an ordinance amending sections 25.09 and 2511 of Chapter 25 entitled Liquor Control of the Burridge Municipal Code? So, Snyder?
Second.
Second, Schiappa, Francis? Second, Francis. Any questions or comments by anybody on the board? Any public comment? Yes.
Ellen Raymond, this isn't the issue I'm here for, but did I hear that Are We Live will get a liquor license without a hearing?
Yes.
And what is the technicality of why that can be done?
It's the way we do business. In fact, this would have been on the consent agenda as I explained. And so you wouldn't single out any one restaurant, which is what you're implying. The others are all seeking similar relief, so it's all together.
But doesn't Illinois law ban the owner of Are We Live from having a liquor license?
No, it does not.
Does it have to be a rehabilitation hearing?
No, it does not,
And why is that?
because he's already gone through a rehabilitation process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? All right, roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Schiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. That takes us to 7, resolutions. Consideration of a resolution recognizing the retirement after 21 years of service to the Village of Burridge Police Department Records Coordinator, Christina Henderson. I have here a resolution recognizing the retirement after 21 years of service to the Village of Burridge Police Department Records Coordinator, Christina Henderson. Whereas Christina Henderson has provided exceptional service to the Village of Burridge since February 14, 2000, and on July 9, 2021, did retire from the Burridge Police Department and has provided such service with efficiency, thoroughness, dedication, and integrity. And whereas Christina Henderson has held the positions of Police Records Specialist 1, Records Specialist 2, which is Records Coordinator, and was responsible for the supervision of all functions of data collection and retention of the police department. And whereas Christina Henderson was instrumental in assisting with the police department's successful national law enforcement accreditation process since 2007. And whereas Christina Henderson played an instrumental role in the police department's transition to the DuPage County Public Safety Communications, DUCOM, Central 911 System in 2016, and whereas Christina Henderson was instrumental in the planning, training, and implementation of the DuPage County-wide Police Records Management System, known as RMS, in 2019, and whereas Christina Henderson assisted in the research, proposal, and implementation of the Police Department's electronic ticket, e-ticket, and electronic crash, e-crash software systems, and whereas Christina Henderson served as the Illinois State Police Law Enforcement Agency's Data Systems Leads Coordinator, and whereas Christina Henderson was the lead on project research implementation and was the coordinator for the village's municipal adjudication program, and whereas Christina Henderson served as the Police Department's Freedom of Information Act officer and liaison to the Illinois Attorney General's Public Access Counselor, and whereas Christina Henderson has served as an instructor during the Burridge Citizen Police Academy programs. I'm on now page 2. And whereas Christina Henderson served as the recording secretary for the DuPage Felony Investigations Team, known as FIAT, and whereas Christina Henderson was a member of the Law Enforcement Records Managers of Illinois and served as a reference for assisting law enforcement agencies in Illinois successfully address the challenges of police data management. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Burridge, Cook and DuPage Counties, Illinois, that Christina Henderson shall hold a place of esteem in the minds and hearts of the residents, businesses, and employees of the village, and has offered our sincere congratulations on her retirement. Approved by motion. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And adopted this 26th day of July 2021 by the Mayor and Board of the Village of Burridge. Congratulations. Chief, how long did it take you to write that?
Mayor, she called me this morning. She's sorry she couldn't make it tonight.
I understand.
But you can see that it hurts us to lose her. And I had to cut it down. I could have kept going.
Yeah.
So, but thank you.
I'll be interested to know how you're going to replace her, because she sounds irreplaceable.
That's going to be a tough one.
All right. On behalf of the village and the mayor, would you please give this to her when you see her? I will. Thank you. All right, that takes us to considerations. 8A, consideration of a plan commission recommendation to approve a request for a special use for amended outdoor dining at a restaurant, Z06-2021, 114 Burridge Parkway, Salamone.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, this is Z06-2021, 114 Burridge Parkway. This is a request for a special use along with findings of fact. Petitioner is Phil Salamone. He's the owner-operator of Capri Express at the County Line Square Shopping Center. This is actually a request for an amended special use for outdoor dining at the subject property. So Capri Express, by virtue of a special use issued 10 years ago, already has outdoor dining at their subject property. So they're allowed to have 4 tables and 16 chairs exactly outside of their business without a fence, and that's because they don't have table service or alcohol service at their restaurant. So they do not have to have a fence. What they're asking for is to put an awning over the subject property's dining area, which would effectively amend the outdoor dining for the subject area. And again, the special use is limited solely to the awning/structure that you're looking at here in black that would be located next to La Cabanita. One of the conditions of the Plan Commission's recommendation was that the slope of the awning, the pitch of the awning, if you will, align with that of La Cabanita's next door. It is most closely nearest to the 48 by 19 by 13 inch size, middle awning size. There was one other condition that was imposed otherwise that was different than the original special use, which is to have some sort of marking, be it markers, planters, tape, etc., around the middle pole of the awning that you see in the bottom right corner there, simply to avoid people walking into it or not noticing that it's present there. It was a 6-1 vote. I see Commissioner Irwin here tonight to represent the Plan Commission in any additional questions you may have. I will also be here to answer them if you have any. Thank you.
Let's start with the board. Any questions or comments from any of the board members? Yes, Tony?
One question. If you can pull up to the picture of the awning, of course. Notice the name is on the front of the awning.
Yes.
Is that allowed?
Yes, it is.
It is.
It is, yes.
Okay. It's my understanding that another restaurant tried to put it on and
No, County Line Squares has unique sign and awning rules which allow that one line of text on the front of their awning, but nowhere else. We have had issues of people putting it on what I'll call the top of the awning.
Okay.
Big, large logos.
Yes.
That's not permitted.
Okay.
But you are allowed to have one line of text at the front of the awning, such as that.
Thank you.
Thank you. You okay? Yes, trustee Francis?
To further your comment, trustee Scap, I believe that the previous problem was that there was a phone number on that awning as well, and that was not allowed.
Correct. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here tonight? I have a question for him.
Yeah. So I know that's not Phil. Is Vito? Yeah. And I think, Vito, you're the actual owner, aren't you?
The what?
Are you the actual owner, or is it Phil?
We're both.
You're both? Okay. Brothers. I mean, I knew both of them growing up. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you. I do support this concept. I have dined under the awning at La Cabanita, and I find it to be an enhancement to the County Line Square dining experience. I appreciate you moving forward with this. Hopefully you'll gain the support of the board. I have one thing to ask of Capri Express.
Okay.
And I ask that you ensure that your delivery drivers do not park in the fire lane. I constantly see drivers park there. Every time I go to Brookhaven, every time I go pick up some carryout somewhere else, on Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, 6 to 8 p.m.
Make it a priority.
They're parking there, and in fact, I was there Friday night at Brookhaven. I saw one driver park his car, leave his car, and go shopping at Brookhaven. And he had a Pre-Express shirt on, so I know it was one of your guys.
I'll talk to him. I think I have an idea who it is. I
Okay.
get you. Yeah.
I know you have dedicated parking spaces for your delivery personnel.
Yes, we do.
If those aren't enough, please contact the County Line Square owner.
Okay.
Have him provide you more and more signage to help you with your delivery. I'm glad you have a great carryout business. I'm glad you have a great business, and this will be an asset, I think, to the village.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else on the petitioner while we have him here? While you're here, any public comment, any public questions of the petitioner?
My question is, what purpose does this serve? Just aesthetics or?
Aesthetics and just to provide our customers some place to eat outside in different weather conditions.
It looks very nice,
Yeah.
but I'm worried about the shop next to it. Is that La Cabanita?
Yeah, La Cabanita, and it's going to be flush with their awning, so it should
Okay,
blend nicely.
okay. All right.
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say it's flush with
Be like
that?
flush with La Cabanita, like that
Okay.
slope and everything, so it should.
It should look very symmetrical.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because aesthetics is also important.
Okay, any other questions? Any public comment? Any questions of the petitioner? Or the board? Okay, thank you. All right, can I get a motion to approve?
Second.
We've got Paveza and Francis, second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal? Yes. Trustee Smith?
Yes.
0.
6-0, the motion passes. Takes us to 8B. Thank you, congratulations. 8B, consideration of a plan commission recommendation to approve a request for special uses to amend the outdoor space adjacent to Building 4 of the Village Center to add a patio with an awning to accommodate outdoor dining and for outdoor dining in a permitted restaurant use, and to approve a request for a special use to permit a restaurant with hours of operation exceeding midnight at the Village Center. Z09-2021, 720, 730, Village Center Drive. Costanda, how do you spell it? Say it again?
Kostandinov.
Kostandinov. Yes. Did I get it right? Kostandinov? Yes. Okay. Kostandinov, good. All right, thank you. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, there are 3 separate petitions before you tonight during Z09-2021. The first is to permit an amendment to the PUD itself to amend the outdoor space adjacent to Building 4. That's the Topaz building, essentially, but it's the other corner. to allow a patio to be created with a permanent retractable awning to accommodate outdoor dining. Second is a special use for outdoor dining at a permitted restaurant use. So again, creating the patio and then the special use to use the patio. Thirdly, there is a request for a special use to operate said restaurant with hours of operation exceeding midnight. So the Plan Commission heard this over 2 separate petitions. The first petition was actually Z04-2021. They withdrew that because there was no petition for the third item, which is the hours of operation exceeding midnight. This is actually the second petition we've heard on this particular subject. The Plan Commission heard this particular petition July 19th, 2021. There was a significant amount of discussion about this particular use. This is a net 13,000 square foot use. In zoning, we always calculate the net use area, which is to say where the customers go in the restaurant. Actual size is more like 16,000 square feet, but we don't count the full restaurant for zoning purposes. Only the public spaces that the restaurant may serve its customers at. So again, about a 13,000 square foot use, indoor and outdoor combined, be about capacity for 500 total guests at any particular time. So if it proved to be the largest restaurant in town by some margin. The major topics of discussion were that of parking, site planning, architectural features. That is to say, what does the design of the patio look like? What does the design of the outdoor of the building look like? There was some discussion about some decorative urns that were to be located on the subject property, but they were removed at the Plan Commissioner's preference. There was also some discussion about the hours of operation and noise that was had at the site, or could be had at the site. Hours of operation was a major topic of discussion for the public comment we received. We received approximately between 5 and 10 comments, mostly from residents of the Village Center itself, wanting to know about the hours of operation and any noise impacts that may occur from those items. Ultimately, the Plan Commission did feel that the statutory findings of facts for all 3 requests included in the petition had been met. They recommended the board approve both special uses and the PUD amendments. There are a number of conditions that were recommended as a part of each of the 3 petitions. I won't read them in detail. You can. I would only note that one of the major topics of discussion again was the hours. The Plan Commission recommended 1 a.m. for indoor dining closure and 11 p.m. for outdoor dining closure. 1 a.m. was specifically noted by the Plan Commission as the village has already granted special uses for 1 a.m. closures at Cooper's Hawk and Walk and Fire, both on the inside. I received a comment earlier today about is that an inside item or not? The Plan Commission, the village has said it's 1 a.m. inside, 12 p.m. outside at both Cooper's Hawk and Walk and Fire. But again, the Plan Commission felt that there was a precedent set with the 1 o'clock closure there. I would note that both those restaurants do not stay open until 1 o'clock based on their business plan. They close between 9 and 11 o'clock at any particular night of the week. So while they are allowed to stay open until 1, they do not stay open until 1 by virtue of their business plan, but that's an elective of their own choice. Again, all 3 votes here were 6-1. And again, I would note that Commissioner Irwin is here tonight to help elaborate on any points you might want to talk about. I'll be here to answer any zoning questions you may have about this petition. If you've already met the petitioner, I'll turn it over to Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, but I'll start with the trustees. Anyone on to my left? Trustee Mattal?
Yes.
Can you come up and introduce yourself?
My name is Anthony Garza with T-Gar Group of Architects. We're the architect of record, so we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, so you're the architect for the petitioner.
Yes, and we have reviewed all the requests from the Plan Commissioners, and we are prepared to meet all those requirements.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, congratulations for starting a new restaurant. I just wanted to kind of get a sense of what type of a restaurant it will be and what type of, or what population you're going to target, and are you going to have big events, or?
Maybe I should refer to the owner, Alexander Kostadinov.
I'll take that question. I'm Alexander Kostadinov, the owner of Pella Signature would be the name of the restaurant. And it is about having a social type of restaurant where you can spend more time than just get in and dine. So it will be a Mediterranean style food.
Do you have any restaurants in the area? Like
No.
First in Chicagoland?
I'm an entrepreneur right now. I have a logistics business. I'm in the transportation industry, but I do have experience working in a restaurant. It was one of my first jobs coming in the United States, so I guess my heart was there.
And there will be an ice cream store there as well.
We decided for that to be inside we wanted to do something for the youngest one. It is what I'm born and raised in Macedonia, and you do see this a lot on the streets because the kids likes it. But at some point we thought that it might not work well just to have an open window like that, but we will definitely bring some Italian gelato inside. So, so once the kids know it, they can get in and get it, of course.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Alex, you are a resident of Burridge, are you not?
Yes, I am. Actually, we live on Hamilton Avenue, right on the top of the hill. We've been here for about 40 years now.
Good. Yes, Trustee Smith.
Well, I just want to thank you for selecting Burridge for your restaurant. So we appreciate your business. Thank you.
Thank you, too.
Anyone else? Yes, Trustee Francis.
So I was wondering if you could turn to the site plan, and if someone could please explain to me the traffic flow for the cars, and there's a circle for drop-off. Is that for carry-out as well? Will there be carry-out in the restaurant? How's that all going to work?
For the public's benefit, I'm not interrupting. This is the space where we would say Ann Taylor Loft is now.
Yes.
And so it's also going to be within the entertainment district, right? That one block area, right? So just to give everybody a reference point. Okay, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Is that for me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
Or the petitioner,
Sorry,
or the architect, either one.
So, as you've noted, at this meeting, actually, the board a few minutes ago approved an amendment to close Village Center Drive between the old Village Circle on the green and this end of Village Center Drive near Lifetime Drive. In basic terms, the flow of traffic will come up Lifetime Drive and either enter this proposed drop-off area, which is actually now a reality based upon the ordinance being approved a few minutes ago. They can either take a valet at that point, or they can enter one of the two parking decks, which is just north, right off screen here on the north side of this property. There's about 1,000 spaces in both decks, either left and right. And if you see right about here, there is kind of a gap. This is actually the north side of the property. This is not adjacent to the building. There's actually a door right here, which will allow them to come right out of the deck and then go over to their front door right here.
Thank you. Will there be carry-out offered, carry-out food offered, and where would those guests park?
Well, there is going to be a valet parking over there, so if that is not a suitable position, probably we will not have that. Or we will have some type of a delivery maybe. We'll try to see what the best works, but I did not have any ideas for now with that, for that, because of that closure that is going to happen there. There was a parking spots in the front, but I do admire that that is going to be closed, and there is going to be a sitting out there, so definitely it's better than the carry out. We would like to welcome more guests to come in than to dine at home.
Okay.
It's easier, right?
I understand. I just, I just would be concerned that someone coming in to pick up a carry-out meal, or someone from DoorDash or a delivery service would park in the valet area or the staging area and then interrupt your valet service. So just a thought. I'm glad you're thinking about how to address that so it doesn't happen. I was wondering if I could ask Commissioner Irwin a couple questions from the Plan Commission.
Alex, could you sit down for a second? Sure. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening and representing the Plan Commission. So I see that it was not a unanimous vote. Could you please explain what the consensus was for the majority and what the consensus of thinking for the opposition of why the opposing vote?
Sure. The opposition was me, so it's pretty easy. I think there was unanimous support for the outdoor dining. There was unanimous support for the hours of operation. My big problem, and the reason why I voted against it, was simply because of the size of the outdoor seating enclosure. And my thought was that enclosure is over the top of the roof. It's at the entryway of the Village Center. And it really, to me, changes the look and feel of the Village Center. And I just thought we could have, I'm familiar with restaurants in Chicago that has this open rooftop. And I'm familiar with ways in which we could do it that wasn't so imposing. And so I was trying to push in the direction of making that outdoor enclosure smaller, maybe cantilevering the roof so it didn't have a peak roof, doing something so it wasn't so large. And that's really what it was about.
Okay, and you're all consistent about the hours of 11 p.m. for outdoor dining and 1 a.m. for indoor dining?
Correct.
Thank you. So I also have a concern about the imposing size and the bulk of this, and it also, this type of architecture doesn't blend well with the village center as a whole. So I'm wondering if the petitioner could work with staff and come up with something that's a little more friendly, a little more cohesive, so it doesn't look like it was tacked on to the village center, more look like it was originally built and originally developed with the village center. I support the idea. I think this will be a great restaurant for the village, a great addition, and I certainly appreciate the petitioner's investment in the village and investment in Burridge, but I'd just like to see something more cohesive with the rest of the village center. Maybe you could, rather than take up this board's time and delay the project, maybe the petitioner and staff could work together to come up with something a little more cohesive.
I'm just seeking some general thoughts about what you're asking for. So one of the conditions that the Plan Commission did oppose was, if you can see all this gray stone cladding on the outside of the structure, this was recommended by the Plan Commission to be replaced by brick cladding that was matching the masonry of the existing building. That's along the lines of what you're looking for?
That's part of it.
It's a start?
Yes. So it would either match the existing materials or contrast. You
Sure.
have a lot of contrasting brick materials in the village center.
Right.
So it catches your eye, but this would just, is this a stucco-like material that's being proposed, or what? I don't know what this
I
is.
think they were talking about just stone, just a
Stone?
stone. But in either case, they had said that they were going to have, the Plan Commission recommended, and please forgive me if I'm not articulating accurately, that it match, not specifying exactly how, but it matched the existing structure of the village center.
I think
I'd
that would-
also note that they struck these pots from the top here, noting that they were going to be bird attractors, so that was struck from the plan.
Will the columns still extend past the eave?
I don't think we got into that detail.
Okay.
Again, we can certainly, the pots themselves, the urns or whatever, were specifically struck from this portion of the site plan, though.
When the village center came before the Plan Commission, we spent many hours looking at the materials, the architecture, and to generate some cohesiveness between the individual buildings and within each building. And I'd just like to see this blend in a little better so it doesn't look like it was tacked on. And I think that might help with Commissioner Irwin's point as well.
I would also note again, the Plan Commission also recommended additional landscaping be included here.
Well,
I understand that's not what you're asking, but that was a
because
condition.
it doesn't hide the building.
Understood. Okay, we can address that in the
If the
future.
petitioner would be willing to work with staff and bring it in, make it more cohesive with the village center, then you have my full support.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
More questions? Yes, Tony?
Yeah, I agree
I'm
with
sorry, were you done, Guy?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, it does look like it's tacked on, and, you know, I don't know if I particularly care for the bases on top of the building.
No,
You
they're
don't find
coming
that they're coming off?
Yes, it was struck, yes.
And I wasn't aware that there's a retractable roof, does it sound like? Or-
Yes, I read a lot about that.
Okay.
So if you can see here, both the sides and the roof retractable. That's what we called that, a retractable permanent awning. No one term neatly described the building.
Sure.
But it does open, and it is intended for 4-season use.
Okay.
Heated, cooled, everything.
Right. And so I had a question for the petitioner. Alex, if I can. What percentage of restaurant business do you see versus bar business? I mean, do you see more food service versus liquor business, or how do you foresee that?
I haven't done that kind of calculation, but I would say at least 50-50.
Okay.
I'm more towards the food than the drinks.
Okay. All right. Just because.
But look, the front side of the place, not the back side is more for a. At least I'm envisioning that way. The guests will know more than me on that, but more for a social night out, rather than the front of the place would be more for coffees and croissants and stuff like that. So something that can go faster, something like ice cream for the kids and stuff like that. So it's not meant to be a bar. No.
Okay, more restaurant than.
More restaurant, more social style where you don't hang out over there to get drunk. That's not the point of the place. You hang out with friends just to socialize.
Okay. And what is the seating capacity of the?
It's a little over 500,
Is
based
that
on the site
indoor
plan.
or just?
That's everything.
That's everything, indoor and outdoor.
Could you break that out too?
Yeah, it's about 2/3 indoor, 1/3 outdoor, maybe a little closer to 50-50 than 1/3, 2/3.
Which can only be used, well.
Some can be used
the
outdoor.
three-season room?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so that can be used throughout the winter.
It was planned at the petitioner testified that it would be a 4-season room, and we've looked into this technology that it can reasonably be a 4-season room with the right technology, yes.
Yeah, I agree with Trustee Franzese that to see if we can work this so that it blends a little bit better with the Village Center. This will be the largest restaurant in the Village of Burridge, so I want to be sure that we're taking every steps to make sure that it's right for our village.
Thank you. Done?
Done. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I have a few questions. Oh, I'm sorry. I
One
thought.
more. Alex, the size, when Trustee Francis brought up, and Trustee Schiappa said, to try and make it smaller, it looks like that it's a beautiful facility. In your opinion, how would you, or you, to work with staff, how are you gonna make it, how would you make it smaller? Is that possible in your opinion? It's like you spend a lot of time, they have this great design, now all of a sudden, we're asking, can you work with staff, can you make it a little smaller to make it fit?
I want to clarify, I wasn't asking to make it smaller. I was just asking to make it look less bulky
Okay, well,
with different materials and maybe alter the roof line. I don't know, but.
that was the retractable thing, if you're using 2 floors,
Yeah.
you got a retractable, how much less bulky can you make it?
That's
what I'm asking.
I can offer some advice. We have been working with a company called Structures Unlimited. They do the prefab structure as it is, and they have their certain required pitches, and we can choose a different pitch, which brings the height lower.
Okay.
So that's the first step.
Okay.
And then we already started the process of updating the renderings, showing more brick on the exterior, so.
Okay.
So
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I have a few questions. First of all, I did get a call or two from people who raised the issue about the 500 seats, and which is why I wanted to know what the breakdown was. I didn't know until you just told me. Roughly 2/3, 1/3, 60/40 is closer?
Yeah, that's better, yes.
Okay, and then by outdoor, that includes the retractable roof area?
Yeah, so we defined outdoor as the 2 spaces called open terrace area and retractable open terrace dining area. That was our definition of outdoor for hours of operation times.
Right. Now, the back of this property, mirror image would be topaz. Okay? In fact, if you actually walk behind this building, probably more area back there than what topaz, and we know how great topaz's outdoor is. Now, Topaz is doing retractable roof also. Are you guys going to be up against each other? Do you know? What's the difference between where Topaz is going to end and where they're going to begin or end on?
Eddie Bauer.
So this does not include the Eddie Bauer space, which is back there.
This is the Banana Republic and the loft space, and then there's the Eddie Bauer space. And I think there's actually another half of a tenant that's kind of gotten left over the years. So there is at least, no, Barbara's is down a little ways, but I'm talking on the other side, more the western side, going toward Walk and Fire. But there is, actually, I think I could probably pull it up here. I guess not. Anyway, you can see there's an end here. This would not be more than 1/3 of the whole building, if that. It'd be more like 1/4 of the building, and there would be that's why the Planning Commission asked for more landscaping down here, is to help blunt the new structure coming off the building that was not there previously. And so there would be a space left between the two. So no, there would be a lot of clearance.
Right. So I'm going to add to what Trustee Francis said, and I'd ask you to at least consult with what Topaz is already doing, so that this is the village center, and this area of the village center is basically our 50-yard line there. And so I'm sensitive to what Trustee Francis and Commissioner Irwin was concerned with, and also making it blend or complement what Topaz is doing. I'm not asking you to do what Topaz is doing. It's your restaurant. Do it the way you want to do it within our rules and regulations. But understand you're going to have a retractable roof type of feature next door. And I like that as an attraction to bring people to come to Burridge for these hopefully unique experiences. So I'd ask you just try to complement what they are doing, okay? Now, Alex, I'm being one of the advocates of it, and I'm not alone in this. I think there's going to be a change in the liquor ordinances in this village very soon. It could happen that we decide to be a midnight closer, that we are not going to let restaurants go beyond midnight, even on the weekends, right? So if we do that, you'll have to live with that. So you must make your plans accordingly, that we may decide not to allow restaurants to serve liquor or be open after midnight. Okay?
Okay.
I mean, that is something that I think there is some movement on this board, and certainly I'm not going to oppose that. I'm in favor of it, frankly. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your pro formas. As it turns out now, if you drive around the village of Burridge at midnight or 11:30 on a Friday or Saturday night, pretty closed up, pretty dead. And I think as much as we want people to come and enjoy themselves, I think as a board, we like that. We'd like to see the village not become an after midnight place. So please keep that in mind, okay? All right. Now, Ramsey's not here. This is, I think Trustee Schiappa pointed out, 500. This is going to be the largest. Give me a comparison. What's the next largest?
Cooper's Hawk, about 10.
About
10,000 square feet.
And this is?
13.
Okay.
Cooper's Hawk's 99% indoors, though.
Right, and then we're going to have hopefully Hampton Social across the way. I know there's a proposal for that area between Hampton Social and Kohler. Someone else wants to put a restaurant in there. I want to avoid becoming, to some extent, LaGrange, where it got oversaturated for a while with restaurants. I was hoping Ramsey was going to be here. When do we get, are we getting there with this? I'd like some indication. I don't want to move dollars around the village. I'd like to bring in more dollars to the village and more revenue to the village. I would rather not just move the dollars around. Right. So do we have the demand for this? That's the only, I mean, have you sat down and done your pro forma? Go ahead.
So I'm not going to comment on the pro forma side, but every development report we run based on trade areas, amount of disposable income means we still have a lot of leakage in this particular food and drink industry. Leakage is a technical term which means that we have people leaving the village to go find the demand that they're looking for. So they're going to LaGrange, they're going to Hinsdale, because there are, quote, projected not enough businesses to support the demand in our area. We have a very supportive resident group that goes to Burridge residents often, and will often think of a restaurant in town first and patronize that. We have many that are long-standing in this community that people have been very loyal to over the years. But the basics show that we have simply not enough restaurants to satisfy the internal demand for Burridge from a 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 mile trade area report. And that's based on a number of different independent agencies that rate us on that side of thing. So again, leakage is the term, and that's, again, we don't have enough, quote, demand to satisfy what we've got here. So another example might be we don't have enough hotels or something like that, so they go out of town. That's just another example. But that's one perspective, but certainly the board may make any decision it wishes just regarding the tenant makeup, especially if there's a special use involved. But wanted to offer that.
Yes.
So Evan, to clarify what you're saying, you say leakage, we have over demand and not enough supply? over demand by the residents?
Yes.
And not enough supply of restaurants?
People leave town to satisfy the demand, yes.
I thought I heard it the other way. Thank you.
Okay, just a concern. I have no, I just think that should be on our radar screen as these restaurants are starting to come up. I think we want to be an entertainment destination. We realize that Village Center in particular will never be a retail shopping area. But at what point, I'd like someone to, one of these days, come and give us an actual study and present it. At what point do we as a board have to be concerned about any saturation? It sounds like I'm bringing up something that isn't a concern right now, but please keep it in your minds going forward. Anybody else?
I also read that you have 2 banquet halls in there. I mean, is that for like kids' birthday parties or business dinners, or what is your vision for that?
Both. There, pretty much every restaurant has a side room, so that's why they simply were named banquets. But for any party or meeting, that's what you need, something that is more on the side. And you need to split the restaurant in a way that even if it's empty, it doesn't feel that bad. So the vibe needs to be created in a way where if it's needed more space, it can be there, but not necessarily needs to be occupied.
As you mentioned, you don't come from the restaurant business, but you've been in the business in the past. Are you planning to hire someone to run the restaurant? Because it's a big undertaking. And
Definitely, yes. It would go from COO of the restaurant and a good chef and the rest of the employees.
okay. And you have all those people picked out, or?
Not yet. So my projections was that we're going to get it done with 6 to 9 months.
Okay.
There is a challenge now. So as the steps are going, we are looking for COO who would be looking. In fact, I have it one of my employees, but she would need additional training for this. And then I'm in talks already with chefs who can handle this size and type of a restaurant. So it will take some work to put the band together.
All right, well, thank you for, coming to our village.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure too.
Okay. Any questions from anybody in the audience? Any public comment at all?
I just didn't hear what kind of food you said.
Mediterranean?
Mediterranean?
Yes.
Okay, with that, there's no more questions or comments. Can I get a motion to approve item 8B? I read it into the record already, but it is for a restaurant at 7020, 7030 Village Center Drive. Now, this motion should be made, given the comments of Trustee Francis and I think the rest of us, that we'd like to see some modification in the outdoor architecture on the backside, which is actually the front side of the Village Center, regarding the outdoor retractable roof area. Okay? I don't know how we make that as part of the motion, but I think the minutes should reflect that the board would like to see some alteration consistent with the comments at the Plan Commission and by the trustees tonight. Yes?
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the petition for to amend the outdoor dining adjacent to the building, Village Center, add a patio with an awning to accommodate the outdoor dining, and for outdoor dining at a permitted restaurant use, and to approve a request for special use permit for a restaurant and hours of operation exceeding midnight, with all the conditions that the Plan Commission stipulated in their recommendation, and the additional condition that the petitioner works with staff to make a more homogeneous architecture that blends in better with the Village Center.
Okay, and that would be a motion to direct staff to prepare the ordinance, and then it'll come back to us in a couple more weeks, so we'll see it again.
That is correct.
Okay. Second. So we have the motion, we have a second, Paveza. Any further comment or discussion at the board level?
I think that the architect that stood up, he also brought up the fact that there's a couple other different variations that he can do. I think it'll make it easier for staff. So I think following what Trustee Francis has brought up and got her second, I think it's going to be a little more easy for staff and the petitioner to do this.
And I'd like you to work with Topaz, only to at least be complimentary, okay? Okay, with that comment, any public comment at this point before the vote? Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Congratulations, welcome to the village. That will take us to item 8C. 8C has been removed by the petitioner from tonight's agenda.
Withdrawn.
Withdrawn? Thank you. Withdrawn by the petitioner, so 8C has been withdrawn. I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to take up item 8E now before we get into 8D. So I'm going to call, the next item is going to be 8E. Consideration of a one-year contract for communication services to Kaleidoscope Marketing of St. Louis, Missouri in the amount of $49,000. Evan?
Thank you, Mayor. This is a proposal from Kaleidoscope Marketing of St. Louis, Missouri in the amount of $49,000 for annual communications creation management services. So this is part of 8D to a certain extent, in that I am requesting that this item related to the previous community engagement position, which is the old communications and public relations coordinator position, which Janet Cowell occupied. I'm proposing that we outsource some of the day-to-day management duties of this particular job to allow for more front-end capacity for that particular staffer to address items that I think we need to have a little bit more focus on. The reason for this is really that we have spent a significant amount of time creating things like the e-briefs every week, flyers, anything that you see around here that was made by the village was probably made by Janet at one point. It was a significant amount of time for her to do a lot of that work, more than half of her job. It's not that these things are not important. In fact, my recommendation to outsource these services are because they are so important to the village's communications, to our event marketing, to our overall communications engagement with residents. Kaleidoscope is actually the firm which does most of the work for the village center. So we have very good synergy with them. We know their staff well. We feel like they understand the village's brand very well because of their experience with the village center. And we are on a first name basis already with that group, and we feel like we can get started right away on creating really great new content and really upgrade that portion of our staffing structure. This contract would continue to be managed by staff. It is not a freelance contract. They're doing what we tell them to do and nothing but. But in the world of government, it's very hard to find extremely good Kaleidoscope level graphic design and marketing. And so because of that, I'm opting that we recommend to outsource these services to Kaleidoscope of St. Louis, Missouri. They will continue to manage our social media. They'll continue to manage our e-briefs. We're going to be tweaking that a little bit. We're continuing to put out the newsletter that we've been successful with in early days so far. But we see a lot of additional engagement coming from this contract immediately. So I look forward to your feedback on this one. Thank you.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve that one-year contract to Kaleidoscope Marketing in the amount of $49,000?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Yes, Tony?
I know creative marketing is pretty subjective.
Sure.
If we're not happy with them mid-year, is there an opportunity to leave the contract, or?
It's really more of a rolling contract. I'm saying 1 year only because I don't want to commit to like a 5-year deal. The 1 year is at most a test for that longest period of time. If we're happy with them after a year, we continue to go to year with them, but it really is a month-to-month contract at this point.
Okay.
We feel very good about the services they're providing us because they're providing what we're telling them to.
Right.
So the early returns have been very good with them.
Okay.
Thank you.
So when you say it's a month-to-month, meaning, so if we don't address this question directly,
Yes.
if after 4 or 5 months we're not happy, that's it?
We can take it off, yes.
Okay. Yes, Joe?
Well done, Evan. Way to go out and find someone to put the situation together, kind of marketing and strategy, and take the pressure off staff. Well done.
Yep.
Evan, do you want to just clarify that till we have a community engagement analyst, you would be the go-to person for them? Or?
Yeah, I've been talking with them to set up this contract, but once they're hired, the new community engagement analyst will be the one to manage the contract. But I'm, for now, in the very near future, I hope to have that person in here. So.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any further comment at the board? Any public comment on this item before the vote?
Can I just ask when they're calling D?
Next. I just said, if you were listening, I'd like to handle 8E before we get to 8D. You're welcome. Anyone, any other comment? Roll call, please.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. Thank you. Now, that brings us to item 8D, consideration of revised village organizational chart. A little background for this, which is why I wanted to leave it for the last item for tonight. And I should have reversed these when I saw the agenda, but my error. During the COVID situation, many things arose during our daily discussions, Trustee Francis and I with staff. During the COVID situation, as you know, we also transitioned from Doug Pollock to Evan. And during that situation and timing, we also had the finance department issues that arose. Given all of that, I sat down with Evan on more than one occasion and asked him to consider a clean slate of the village. We are a small village. We do not have a fire department. We do not have a park district. We are about as bare bones as a village organization gets in those services. And so I asked him to look at this critically in a blank slate scenario and come up with a well-functioning staff, well-staffed, but I think it was evident to me, having been the mayor for a long time in this village, that we could do things better with a different organization, less staff, and more importantly, less payroll and less benefits, and therefore less pension. So that is part of the background to what you're seeing tonight in terms of our recommendations for organizational staff. This is a recommendation. This is a work in progress. And so with that background, Evan, go ahead.
Thank you. So there's 6 unique items that we're going to talk about regarding the organizational chart. I would ask that you hold your comments and questions till the end, just so I can explain how each of these work together, because some of them will work together, and it'll be important to have that context. First item is the admin department's reporting structure. So the admin department, for many years, did not include community development. It does now. 5 years ago, we absorbed a 2-person community development department into admin to help eliminate some of the overlay costs between me and Doug. As part of that, we've grown into kind of a single structure where the department head or village administrator handles a wide array of management duties. And so one of the things I'm recommending is that Executive Assistant Julie Tukowski assume official supervision of what we call the front office in the admin department. So the front office is a group of people, 4 employees, including Ms. Tukowski, who handle all the inbound communications for the village. So if you call our main number, if you call in to ask about your water bill, permit, if you come in the front door, you will be handled by someone in the front office 100% of the time unless they're all absent. But we make every effort to make sure these 4 people are set up to prioritize resident and business service. They're strictly to do that. They handle about 50 to 100 inbound calls for service every day. Without exception, they're very busy, and thus they have a very unique function within our village. Because Ms. Tukowski is very experienced in our front office, she was in the front office for many years, I'm recommending she assume management of these 3 other employees herself and receive a small raise as part of that. I'm recommending this because there simply is an efficiency to her handling this management duty. She's closer to the duties of the front office than I am or any department head would be. She's more able and more efficient, more apt to respond to the needs of the front office staff whenever they have a question. Hey, how do I handle this? How do I handle that? What do I do in this situation than I am? I may not be there at that particular time. I may be at a meeting. I may be preparing for one. She is always there because she is in the front office. And again, she is a senior employee just in terms of her experience alone within the front office. So I'm recommending she take over management of these 3 employees. This will free up a lot of management time for me, as well as streamline the focus and the efficiency of the front office and the department overall. Second item I'm recommending is reclassification of the Communications and Public Relations Coordinator to be called the Community Engagement Analyst. So the CEA, as I'm going to call it, is going to mimic many of the same responsibilities that Janet used to in her role. They will manage and execute special events first and foremost. They will run the website. They'll act as the staff liaison to the Veterans Memorial Committee, as they've been loved to do. They'd also work with Ms. Mittal, Trustee Mittal, I should say, regarding the Special Events Committee, downtown events and marketing and the like. But I would add the responsibilities of working with external groups such as the park and school districts, HOAs, et cetera, on anything where the village's interests align, either theirs or ours. And that would be on connecting them to resources, making sure their questions are answered and the like. We have a significant amount of inbound calls for service that are not necessarily easy to answer, that I'd like this position to be much more involved with, going to a lot more meetings, going out in the field a lot more. And that's where the outsourcing to Kaleidoscope comes into play to free up that time and resource capacity for them to go out and actually manage these items. Again, I'm always surprised at how many calls we get from HOAs asking to meet, park districts who want to form relationships on a new event, something like that. This position, if they were to retain all the communication services, would simply not have time to do these things. And so because there is nobody else who's really apt and able to do that on our staff, I wanted to make sure this position had the opportunity to go ahead and really dig deep in the community from an engagement perspective. And that's why I'm calling them specifically the Community Engagement Analyst. Their job is to be front and center for the village, to make us look good, to put a good face in the village, and to be very responsive to the needs of groups and residents. But there may not be otherwise a good fit for somebody else to naturally do that. Certainly if there's a question about subdivision cameras or crime, they would reach out to chief, or flooding, then maybe to Dave, but I'm amazed at how many questions we get from HOAs and the like that are just don't fall into those nice, neat buckets. And so I'd want this position to do a significant amount of work regarding outreach to HOAs and the like, which is currently not being readily picked up. Third item is the recommendation to create a brand new position within the village here. This is one that Chief and I have talked about at length over the past few months. This is the creation of something called the Community Service Officer. We're going to call it the CSO for short. This is a position that would be created within the police department to address code compliance and non-sworn law enforcement calls for service in the village, those being traffic management, non-moving violations, so a parking ticket, animal control, things like that, as well as certain back-of-house duties within police, such as uniform management, fleet management, and the like. This would be a uniformed employee. They would look like a cop, but not be a cop. They would wear a different color blue, maybe a light blue. You saw our dark blue tonight, our sworn officers, they might wear a light blue or a white, something different, but they would be driving a marked village vehicle, work standard hours, but otherwise their primary responsibilities would be code compliance and non-sworn law enforcement. There's two reasons for the establishment of this position being recommended. The first is that we currently have had, over our history, either a part-time employee or an element of a full-time employee handling code compliance. And as we've grown from a growth community to a mature, built-out community, which is what we are, we have very few subdivisions at any particular time in our community, code compliance has moved to the fore as being a critical program for our village residents to use and access. Last year, the board enacted an adjudication program, which has been hugely successful to date. Very responsive. It's given staff a lot of authority and latitude to go out and treat issues in where they happen. I've talked to most of you about an issue you've noticed over the last 6 months, and happily, because of adjudication, we've been able to act faster than we did recently. We had to go to DuPage County or just send a mean letter and hope they complied. But in this case, I think we need to take those services a bit further and have someone here 5 days a week, and one of their primary duties is to handle code compliance. In Burridge, when property maintenance standards are high, I would say much higher than most communities around us, it is my opinion that we need to have strong responses to property maintenance and non-moving violations such as this. Secondarily, there's also been calls from the board to look at things like part-time officers, sworn officers, additional sworn officers. These things are present in other communities, but Chief and I have discussed the need for additional law enforcement service, and we feel like the best way to do that is to incorporate the CSO concept into our staffing structure. So here's an example. 2 people rear end on County Line Road. Right now, traffic management and any investigation has to be handled by the officers on duty. So you can have a sergeant, we have 5 of right now on our staff, handling a traffic case. That could be handled by the CSO, and the sergeant could be back on the street handling criminal prevention, working with groups in the community with our CEA, anything else that keeps them in neighborhoods and in the streets to keep our residents safe. That does not need to be handled by a sworn officer. A sworn officer does not need to go around writing parking tickets or fire lane violations. No one's debating that fire lane violations are important, but they don't necessarily need to be handled by a badge with a gun. This is where we need to move to the next level of how we use and multiply our existing staff to use their time better and multiply them to be in the streets, looking at people who are looking to do home invasions or car burglaries, which we've seen some materialize recently. But overall, this position is a much more financially possible position to actually implement from a financial perspective. This is not a sworn position. This is an IMRF employee. This does not add $1 or one piece of liability to our police pension as part of any financial practice we have. So this would be a non-sworn position, but would be in the police department for expedience's sake. So again, you call in with a code complaint, it'll immediately go to the police department and someone in a marked vehicle will go out and investigate it that day. And it'll be handled through the police department, which is where the adjudication program is already located. If I have a code case, I have to call the records department over there and say, hey, help me out with this. Now it'll all be bundled into one umbrella where code is very quickly handled, is very fairly handled, and all the resources necessary to adjudicate those issues are right in one particular building.
And before you go any further,
Please.
and the visual of this is that it will be coming from the police department. That gives a little bit more authority, or the presence of a little bit more authority when someone is being approached, a resident's being approached for having possibly violated an ordinance. It just gives us a leg up in dealing with the problem.
Exactly.
And it's a little bit more official. And it's in essence a staff position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of just rebranding. The chief is 100% behind it. And it's something, we've never had a code enforcement officer before. We've kind of had a philosophy of if something's brought up to us, we enforce it. But over the years, it really hasn't worked as well. And I don't think it has. And so this is a new approach to an issue that I think we've needed to address in the village for some time. And I like the way the two of them have come up with this idea. As soon as I saw that it would be someone in a uniform, I think we'll have a lot more effective code enforcement and cut through it all. And then, of course, blends beautifully with the adjudication process. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think that was an important footnote.
It's a good comment. So we would be really one of the last communities in our area to have a CSO or any CSO programs. So right here, Oak Brook, Hinsdale, Clarendon, Western, et cetera, all have multiple CSOs. Again, I'm recommending one. I'm confident this will work, but again, I want to start with one just to build on our early successes, hopefully. But again, these are something that are implemented far and wide in the law enforcement and code and compliance community overall. Again, I do want to note that it is not a police pension position. It also would make significantly less than a sworn officer who starts at about 70. This would start at about 50. So there's a savings to doing a CSO versus an additional sworn, plus they don't have to go through the entire hiring process that sworn do. As we heard earlier tonight, it's a very lengthy process to hire a cop. The fourth item is a position called the Police Administrative Services Manager. So this position is essentially the position that was vacated by Records Coordinator Tina Henderson upon her retirement. Tina did a number of things for the village, as was referenced in her resolution. She had a long and successful career full of accomplishments and service records that a person in her position is want to have. Chief Madden and I talked about this position, and Chief is recommending, and I concur with this recommendation, that the job description, the salary range, et cetera, and the title be upgraded to add a number of responsibilities to assist with the oversight of police administrative duties. There are a number of things that go into the police department management structure right now are being taken care of by two humans, essentially speaking, which is chief and deputy chief. 27 people in the whole department managed by two. That's hard. There's a lot of moving targets there. This position would become essentially the records division supervisor. They would supervise the other two records division's employees. They would add the duties here included, implementation of shift schedules, preparation of the department's budget, reviewing and assisting in revisions to the policing policies, which is a constant affair that we undertake in public administration, assisting with analysis, amendment, and implementation of any proposed or existing orders, as well as the management of compliance with said orders. So anytime there's an order to do something, chief or deputy chief need to write an official order to their sworn officers to have that order be remanded. They simply can't say it. They have to write an order, and that order needs to be filtered down through all 27 people within the department. And right now, that's going to Chief and Mark's shoulders. when it's hard to always have that right on them just because they may not always be in the office, et cetera. So again, this position is essentially being upgraded to allow for some management duties to be transferred to this position because there's so many management duties currently resting on chief and DC right now, and we're trying to have a little bit more of a flat structure on the civilian side there. Again, Tina was not in charge of directly supervising the 2 employees in records. She oversaw their work, said, you know, that's right, that's wrong, et cetera. Here's how the way to do that, but she didn't officially carry the title of supervisor for those employees. So again, this is a way for records, working with the code, the CSO, other people in the department, officers, to go to the window within records and get what they need. This is to have a leader in that particular division on an official basis. Tina did a great job as a leader, but she never assumed that role officially as far as the org chart goes. This is the planner position. The planner position I'm actually recommending be eliminated, and there's several reasons why. First, when we went out to the job market in the spring after we approved the planner position's recreation this past budget, we found that the compensation that we were trying to offer was insufficient to hire someone that we felt could stay for the long term. As we all know, our planner elected to not only take a job with the village, but to continue to interview while waiting to start work and quit a month after. Not too thrilled about that. But one of the common items that we found from our planner outreach was a salary far and above what we were offering, exceeding $80,000 in some cases. That's 25% more than we were offering. The lowest salary for a plan commission related planner position was $69,000, and that was in Hanover Park. Again, that's a significant increase of what we were offering. Anything above $69,000, what I'm seeing here, would bring the total compensation in this position over $100,000, benefits, taxes, insurance, et cetera. It's a very expensive position to hire, and it is not going down. A number of communities are experiencing retirements in community development. We saw that to a certain extent last year. Secondly, we received no applicants for the position of planner with any code compliance experience. That was a part of what we built into the planner's job description. Nobody had any code compliance experience. That was something we had seen some years ago, that the planner was handling that, and nobody really had any code compliance experience. Also, there was some negative sentiments about code to be included in the job description. So not only is hiring a planner becoming more expensive, it's also becoming harder simply in what they want to do from a professional perspective. Finally, with reappointment of Ms. Spakowski as the front office supervisor and relocation of a number of services to police, this work should be remanded to the village administrator simply because there's a big savings of management duties that are normally not part of that job description anymore. Overall, the balance on time is about the same between code and supervision in the front office that's being transferred out compared to what will be remaining for the planner's position should this thing exist in the capacity that it is. So there's not a significant increase in the village administrator role regarding this position's duties being assumed. If we just eliminated this position with the advertised salary, it'd be a $90,000 savings, a significant amount of money. And again, I note that $90,000 only because that's what we offered it as in the spring. If we were to eliminate it based on what we might have otherwise paid in the summer, it would be well over $100,000, up to $110,000. It'd be a significant savings to the village. Finally, this last position is vacant because of the recent retirement of Jim Lucas and the promotion of Pete Guth to the Waste and Wastewater Supervisor in the Public Works Department. We are recommending simply that this vacant position be filled as is. This is the Assistant Water Operator in Charge position. This is a highly valuable position to Dave Preissig in his Public Works Department. This is the liaison between utility billing and our water customers, so if you have a need to check a meter, it is more than likely going to be this person who's checking it for the village, making sure our billing is accurate and residents are getting high quality service from that particular portion of our staffing structure. This position is classified in salary range 107, subject to the collective bargaining agreement in IOUE, Local 150, so we don't have any immediate need to change the salary range that I'm listing here. So that's the summary of the 6 positions that I want to note in this particular reorganization. I do want to note that there is no financial investment to creating all these changes. There's also no increase in full-time employee count to the village as well. But we do feel from a staffing perspective, myself, my department heads, some of my middle managers, that this is going to create a significant amount of capacity for our staff that we don't currently have that will benefit our residents first and foremost. Our philosophy as a management team is we want to push as much resources to the residents as possible. We want to have as little administrative staff as we can get away with. We want to push as much service, either speed or quality or the like, to the residents and businesses so they can take the most advantage of those types of things. And that's what we've attempted to do here. This is a group discussion that we're putting forward. We do look forward to your discussion and your questions, as I'm sure there will be some. But again, just want to note, this is presenting no additional employees, and there actually is a small savings to the village overall. Again, I close out. I look forward to your discussion. Thank you.
Okay, let's start at the board level. Any questions? Joe?
The position for the records planner, for Tina's position, is that going to be a police pension issue, or is that going to
No.
That's going to go back to similar to what you said, IMRF?
It was IMRF under Ms. Henderson. It's IMRF under the new item. It's a civilian job.
Thank you, Joe. I like the way you've set this up. I really do, especially using Julie up front and a few others. I think it's well done.
Thanks.
I want to congratulate Mr. Walter for doing a good job. Everything is very narrow and deep, so each silo is functioning well. And also we're more resident facing, so their needs come first. I like the idea of a CSO so they know who to approach, and we talked about, even in the whatever information we send out to the residents, introduce each person, that if you have a question, this is the person you go to, and so that the residents feel comfortable. But I like this setup, and basically by saving money for the planner, you have money to create these other positions.
Russ?
Yep. Just a quick question. Now that we have this plan here, which is looks very attractive, does staff have any wishes or wants that's not being asked tonight that we need to be aware of?
Not significantly. I mean, one of the things that we try to do when we do reorganizations is to affect as few in-house personnel as possible. That's why it was done this way, is to use our vacancies to our advantage and lever those positions. Again, this was a staff discussion. This is not Evan's recommendation. This is a Dave, a finance consultant recommendation about what do we all need as a village, a department head team. We feel like this is the right amount of staffing from an FTE count per department and village-wide overall. So we feel like we're in good position here. I do not see the need to recommend any significant additions to the staffing structure at this time, provided that this reorganization.
Thank you.
I think the other question that was being asked was, given that this was a staff discussion, have any members of the staff raise concerns that will be, if you will, shaken out or ironed out as this is implemented? In other words, it looks great on paper, but are there some, what should we be looking for in terms of any precautions that any staff members have raised?
Well, as I said, this is a staff discussion. I'll give you an example. So the discussion about the admin department was made as an admin department as a group. We came together and said, what's the best way to put our resources to work? And a number of them said, we think Julie should be in charge of something. So again, this is a discussion that's been 30 to 45 days in the making. We've taken a lot of care to make sure that we respect people from an existing perspective, make sure that we don't infringe on their duties, to give them the support they need to overall carry out their job duties. But again, this was made soliciting staff input as to what they need to get their job done and what they feel like is important from a capacity perspective. Again, one of the discussions we heard from an admin department perspective, it'd be nice to have had more Janet because she was always doing some of the communication stuff. She had a lot of talent for that sort of stuff. How can we put that position in a position to help us succeed from a department and a village? One of the things that was brought up was maybe we should have some of it transferred to another person or out of the village to another marketing agency. And that's where the idea to approach Kaleidoscope came from. Again, I talked about the Julie example. Chief actually included the CSO goal in the budget, and we felt like there was not sufficient space in the budget then. But as we've seen some retirements and some vacancies come up, we've brought this idea up again to say, how can this help you? And Chief and Mark were both very enthusiastic about the opportunity to have something like this assist their staff, mostly their sworn staff, from a CSO perspective, get work done and keep them in their vehicles to be doing their main job, which is to protect the residents of the village. I'm a priority guy. Job one is protect the residents, period. And so this allows us to have more police officers or great police staff be in positions to do the top priority. So again, this is a very carefully thought out reorganization. We put a lot of ideas on the table. Some were rejected because we felt like they were going to infringe upon people from an HR perspective, or simply they just weren't a fit. So to better answer the question, I really think this was brought with a lot of consideration from the existing staff, and I think we did a great job, and I want to compliment my staff for being honest about what they felt like they needed, because that's one thing I do always empower my staff to say is what you actually need. I can't go to bat for you if you don't tell me what you need. And I'm glad that we're reorganizing in a way that helps provide good staff members to every person within the departments.
One other question, if I may. On the CSO officer, what's the vision for hours inside versus being out in the field?
Certainly, I'd want them to be in the field as much as needed to get the work done. You know, I don't want them, if there's code to be done, I don't want them coming back to the station and doing one thing. But again, there are going to be times where there's going to be lulls in the code process because there just are sometimes. At that point, they could help chief with any item that he needs help with. You know, one of the things that we talked about was that there were times where sworn officers would drive vehicles over to Fleet in Willowbrook. You know, I don't want sworn officers driving cars to Fleet in Willowbrook because they have a bad transmission. I want them in their working cars, and the CSO would handle these types of things. So again, I'd want to have the CSO be mimicking a sworn officer where it's in the field doing a lot of good, but if there's nothing on the plate, helping out with things back at the office, helping out with some of the back of house things that we call to help make the department run, but the residents don't see, those things are going to be important for them to help pick up on.
And the CSO, where will she or he be physically?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, where would the office of the CSO be?
The office will be on the street. So in answer to Trustee Smith's question, it's going to be spending most of the time out. So in support, they do quasi-law enforcement where we don't need a sworn officer. So, I'm sorry.
Would they have a physical office anywhere? And would it be in the police station or here?
It would, no, it would be where the other officers do their reports, and that's in the report writing area.
Yeah.
There would not be a cubicle or office.
In the police station?
There's a bullpen where everybody does it.
My awkward point was that, and this person would be coming out of the police station and going to the police station, which I felt was very important, you know, as a message, if you will. It just gives that person the authority that I think it needs to be with this position.
It would fall under our chain of command.
Yes. Sorry, I articulated the way I should have. But you got to my point, thank you. Would the community engagement analyst be a department head?
No.
Okay, and so the department heads would be?
It would be myself as village administrator and admin, police chief, public works director pricing, and then a finance director of some sort. Still remaining 4 departments within the village, yes.
All right.
Could you speak in the microphone, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. To repeat, the village administrator and admin, police chief, public works director, and finance director would be the 4 department heads.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. Anybody over here? Al, go ahead.
Right here, I look at this, there's awful lot here to comprehend. So the only thing that, as far as I'm concerned, I have to look forward to is, you know, it's got the support of the chief and the mayor and Evan that, you know, this is the way to go. So with you people behind this, I can support this.
Okay. Tony?
So just to confirm, so Julie would be a department head?
No.
No.
She would simply be supervising 3 other employees within admin. So right now I have 7 direct reports. In admin, I'd go to 3 because she took over the management of those 3 employees.
Okay.
Or 4, I'm sorry.
And then the CSO, I love the idea to support our adjudication program. I mean, I think it goes hand in hand. And that is an IMRF?
Correct.
Okay.
Not a pension person.
No, okay.
Police pension, no. IMRF, yes.
The union's not gonna,
No.
Non-union.
looks like a police officer, smells.
It's done, as many people, as Evan said, it's in many, many villages.
And that's, we've got support from the sergeants and the patrol to help with this.
Okay.
They're happy to.
Just making sure, because.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You've been in those meetings, so
Yes,
you
I
understand.
Yes.
So, and that's the
Fair.
point.
No, fair.
Look,
Fair,
the
fair.
point tonight is to ask your questions, please, and this is, a work in progress. This is what I felt, working with Evan and seeing what has occurred in the last year or two, and giving it my perspective from, prior experience here. I thought we needed a new organization, and we had the opportunity to do it, given the changes that we've had in staff. You'll also be hearing shortly about some ideas that we have about a more efficient way to run finance. We have the idea, we're not yet there to bring that idea to you, but you'll hear it within the next few meetings. And I think that will be much more efficient and much more cost savings as well. So the reality of it is that we can get the job done more efficiently with the same amount of people for the long haul. As we all know, revenue sources for villages are difficult to find, especially for non-home rule communities such as Burridge. And the number one item of expense is always, we're in the service business, therefore it's employees. So the task given to Evan, which I think he has crossed the goal line with so far, is that how can we make this village function at the level the residents expect, enforce our codes, support the police department, and do it so that we don't have a strain on our revenues in the near future. And I think you're getting that organization now. But any more questions? Yes?
I have a few questions, please. I'm going to go down your listing here. So for the administration department reporting structure, what will be the new title of Julie?
No title change. Executive assistant would remain.
Okay. Community engagement analyst, a couple questions there. You mentioned that they would be interacting with the HOAs. How does that happen? How do you envision that working?
Most of the time, the HOAs call me. Very rare.
For what purpose?
Any purpose. I mean, someone wants to know how we can organize staff help on particular questions.
Okay.
How do I get connected to other HOAs? How do I deal with the flooding in my area? I mean, some of these things, as I said, fit neatly into buckets. Like, again, someone's calling about the subdivision camera program. That's IT and police, period. Someone's calling about a flooding issue. That's Dave Pricing and his team. But the balance of the calls are so much further than those. That's what I want this position to be head and shoulders in front of, to help those groups get organized and solve their problems.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Moving on to the community service officer, I think this is a great idea. I think it's unrealistic to expect our residents to understand every nuance of our ordinances and codes, where a resident can park his boat trailer, where he can't park his boat trailer, where a fence can be built, where it can't be built. And so for one resident to say, my next door neighbor is parking his boat in his front yard, is that allowed or not? This is long overdue, in my opinion. So if it takes the burden off of the residents to know the code, and not that this person's going to be driving around looking for violations, but if he sees them in his travels, he may come back and act on them. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to do is allow for more proactivity of staff, as was stated. It's so hard for residents to know that that's illegal or not permitted versus permitted. There are so many fine lines. And having people who are dedicated and knowledgeable on those types of services and programs is so critical. It's so hard to do code part-time or part of a staffer who does it on the side. It's just, I really think, to your point, well said, it's time to have this type of position in the village.
Okay, thank you. So with the CSO, the community service officer, would he have a badge? Mr. Chief?
It's possible. I haven't decided yet.
Okay. And what kind of a vehicle would he be driving?
We're going to repurpose a vehicle that exists currently. It'll be different from a police vehicle, but it will have emergency equipment.
Okay.
And will be identified as a police community service officer to assist
Perfect.
with traffic enforcement and assisting officers investigating traffic crashes.
Very good. I've seen those in other communities, those types of vehicles, so I appreciate that. Thank you. So a call comes in on 911. I was always taught by the village and by other people that if you want a police officer to respond to a concern, you call 911. If you want someone else to respond to a concern, you dial the non-emergency number. So a call comes into 911. There's someone parking in the fire lane at County Line Square. There's loud music coming from or drunken karaoke coming from a restaurant. Would this be then decided upon at, how does what mechanism would occur to decide whether an officer responds or the community service officer responds?
Well, our 911 center would know what type of calls to assign to a non-sworn officer or a sworn officer. And as a fail-safe, there's a watch commander that if he heard something, he would jump in there and direct it.
Got it. Okay. So that mechanism already exists, and there's a specific criteria for that.
Yes.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
And specific training at the.
And specific training, of
at
course.
the 911 center, the dispatchers.
Yes.
Okay. Police Administrative Services Manager, I'm okay with that. No questions there. The planner. So, during my service to the village, we've always had a community development director and a planner, or a community development director. This would be the first time with neither of a person. I have a concern about that because there are still some parcels in the village that require planning, will require planning in the future. The TCF Bank property, we were told, that was going to be possibly marketed next spring. There's 2 10-acre parcels on County Line and German Church Road. The Rustic Acres property, any redevelopment that might occur in County Line Square or in the Village Center certainly requires planning expertise. And I don't think we have the in-house planning expertise currently, and eliminating this planner position concerns me. Is it possible to outsource planning needs on a as-needed basis?
Yes, I think we would acknowledge that, for example, let's just take the downtown as an example. If we had a master plan needed for TCF, yes, we would want to engage a planning agency to help with that sort of thing. If there is a question regarding a variation regarding a fence, I have always felt that does not necessarily require the services of a $150 an hour consultant. But certainly, to your point, if there are things that require master planning, comp plan amendments, comp plan revisions overall, yes, we would certainly come to you and say, hey, it's worth 10 grand or whatever it is to, especially downtown, to hire those people to come in and provide services on what I'll call larger scale policy level decisions. But day to day, I don't feel it's necessary to have that outsourced contract present.
And who from staff then would be represented at the Plan Commission public hearings?
Me.
Okay.
And another point there, Guy, because we did discuss this in length, and we assumed that would be a topic of conversation. Obviously, we've had a planner and a community development director for years and years and years in this village, forever. But I also saw over the years that we also went out and got other professionals to weigh in all the time. And to some extent, I'd rather start there by going out on some of the, we're not in the development phases that we used to be in.
That's correct.
You have pointed out exactly that we can be in a project-by-project basis, and so I think the very analysis that it will be a project-by-project basis, we can outsource that when we think it's necessary. We can spend the money when we think it's necessary. We ended up doing that a lot anyhow. I can just tell you we did. And so I still think that this is a more efficient way to handle it, and it's more cost efficient also. And then if it looks like we're spending too much money doing that, then we can go back and consider hiring a full-time planner. I don't see that as ever happening. I see this addressing the reality of where Burridge is in 2021. And I think this will be more efficient both vis-a-vis the staff and more efficient from a dollar standpoint. And I think we should give it a try, given where we are in 2021. The same charge I gave Evan when I said, look at the staff and address this village now, not the way just because we used to do things a certain way. And that's one of the things we learned through the whole COVID experience. So, but that's, go ahead.
I would agree with that. The level of planning, how it was 20 years ago, is not what we're experiencing today. It was much greater. We were considering the village center, we were considering Loyola building, we were considering hotels, subdivisions, et cetera, and that's, we haven't had, last subdivision that we've reviewed is Lakeside Point. That was what, 4 years ago? So it's not the intensity that it used to be, and so this possibly is a good solution. You have a planning consultant in mind already, or consultants in mind already to assist?
Yeah, I have several that I've talked to about this, and part of the discussion has been, I just don't have any hard and fast plans that I can kind of describe, but certainly, yes, we have several that we feel like can help us when the need arises at some point here.
Very good. The next position that was discussed was the assistant water operator in charge. That's no change there, and I agree with that. Something that wasn't mentioned was permit reviews. Currently, we have a person and a half doing permit reviews, or a person and a consultant.
So there are actually 3 people, an entity-wide, that do direct permit reviews.
3 people.
So, well, let me explain. So we have a permit technician that handles the day-to-day management of the permit themselves. So a permit comes in, she routes it.
Right.
That's her job. We have a consultant who does residential reviews called Don Morris Architects. We have a consultant that does commercial reviews, BNF. We also then use elements of our existing staff to complete the reviews. So the assistant water operator in charge or the water operator in charge will review anything related to water connections. Mr. Benema in Public Works will do anything regarding engineering, grading, site planning, that sort of stuff.
Okay. That's been going on for years.
That essentially, correct. That's been the basic setup for many years, and I don't anticipate that changing in any real way right now.
You had made a comment earlier that the number of permits that were approved, was it June or May? Was
June. We had 60.
60?
60 issued.
And how many permit applications? There was some 300 number you threw at me. Was it?
We're on permit 280 for the year, way ahead of schedule. Usually we'll do about 350 for the entire calendar year. It's 1 week from August and we're at 280. We are repurposing some of our internal staff to help with that load right now. We have a few part-timers who assist with that right now, who typically would be doing things like document management, but we've repurposed them to help with permit routing, permit scanning, just to help the permit technician get through this period, because it won't last forever. But for now, we do need to help, and we have onboarded more people to help her.
Thank you for bringing in the help, the additional help. I don't want that permit person who's doing a fantastic job.
She is.
To get burnt out and throw in the towel because we haven't provided her
absolutely
necessary resources to help her do her job. So,
great.
Okay, and we're going to discuss finance department at a later date?
Correct.
Okay, very good. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Sooner than later.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Joe?
Mayor, I like the fact that you sat down with Evan and put the department heads together, and let Evan sit with everyone, spend 30, 45 days and go, okay, we've always had, micromanage, but this time it's like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? How can we make this better? And by doing that, it sounds like each part of the departments came to like, we want Julie, we want Dave, it's like tremendous. What a difference, and I've only been on the board 4, 5, 6 years. What a difference. I want to thank you for some guidance for Evan. I want to thank you for going through all the exercise with your department heads. Thank you.
Okay. Any other? Yes.
Yeah, this process is good work for the residents, and it's fun. I enjoy the challenges and helping staff and making sure that we can provide that level of service to our residents. At the police department and with staff. I think this is a great plan, and I'm excited to see it through.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
One last question: the impact versus budget. Is this going to cost more, cost less? What do you think the overall impact of this move?
The bottom line.
The bottom line is it's literally revenue neutral. It's a $400 savings.
Can't argue with that.
I had a feeling someone would ask, so we did under.
Yes.
So.
Would it be possible at some later date or next meeting or two to see a before and after org chart?
Yes, of course.
Helpful.
That was,
Visual always is
that's
helpful.
part of the discussion, that is you are actually approving changes to the org chart.
Okay.
But yes, we would be
You could always
producing
give us a
those.
conceptual org
Yes,
chart.
no, certainly. That is why you have retained the right to oversee these changes, because this is actually changes to the organizational structure, thus changes to village policy.
Okay.
So yes, great question.
I do appreciate the consensus approach that staff has arrived to with the department heads, soliciting all the department heads for their valuable input and incorporating that input and coming up with an overall plan that benefits the village and also equals or improves services to the residents.
No, and I want to be clear that the department and team, staff who provided input, this is how we want it to work. It's a group effort. What happens when somebody's weak, another person's weak, just because we're such a small town. You know, if you lose 1 out of 10, you can survive that. If you lose 1 out of 1 or 1 out of 2, that's tough. But I'm appreciative that everyone was honest and said this is what we think we need and what we think will be best for us, and we're willing to accept new things and new challenges, because sometimes the staff might say, in other towns might say, we don't want to change anything just because we don't want to fail. But I'm congratulating all the staff who said we want to take a managed change, take a managed risk to do these new things to provide better services, because we know the kind of calls we get from residents, from board members and the like, and we feel like this is the way to get it done here on out. So I do want to commend the staff for their honesty, for their intuition about what they need, and I appreciate them asking for what they need and not what they need plus 10. So I thought there was a very measured approach by the team, and I'm appreciative of the ability to pitch their ideas to you tonight, so thank you.
Okay, if there's no other comments or questions from the board, any public comment? Yes.
Alice Crampett, 7515 Drew. Just a couple questions. I don't know, it's sounding like it's going to cost more down the road a little bit if we do like consulting. Concerned about a planner as well. My other question though is hotel motel dollars going to be used for this new marketing thing that we're doing here? The marketing, the 47,000.
Kaleidoscope.
The Kaleidoscope contract?
Yes.
It would be split between a number of funds.
So it would be
one of them would be hotel, yes,
because
but
I
it
think
would be split.
Wasn't Janet's part of her salary coming out of hotel motel?
Several employees were, and we're going to change that around a little bit. It actually will be helpful for the funds. One of the exercises, I'm sorry, this is a longer answer than you're looking for, but one of the exercises we do every year from a budget perspective is what funds are being impacted the most by changes, et cetera. We try to remove as much staff dollars from those funds. The last year, we actually took some staff dollars out of hotel because the fund was down to like $6,000. So over time, we're going to see if we can build more into that fund to take pressure off of the general fund, which can be used for anything. So as I say, it's in a couple different funds right now, only because we're going to see how the rest of the year shakes out financially. We'll make more of a permanent decision during the upcoming budget cycle.
So does that mean that there's going to be marketing then for the mall more, or can Ramsey put money in toward that particular marketing contract that you approved?
The services we're approving tonight are solely for the village and for village events. We're not going to be paying for any village center marketing dollars that he puts in.
Okay.
We're trying to intentionally not duplicate, because his brand may be different than ours, his message may be different than ours,
Okay, so it's not going to be feasible to share any of that?
I mean, we certainly are. That's why we like working with Kaleidoscope, but at the same time, he's trying to reach an audience of 10 miles around Burridge. I'm trying to reach the residents of Burridge first and foremost. So that's why we're trying to keep our own contract to ourselves, because then we can unilaterally control who we're talking to, which again is the residents and businesses of Burridge.
Okay. So the hours of the CSO, people are commenting that, they'll be there to do code enforcement if it's too loud at the hotels or the restaurants at night. They'll be doing other things during the day. What kind of hours is this?
It's business hours.
So regular business hours?
Yeah, primary business hours. They will have the opportunity to earn overtime. So you get a concert or a weekend event, they would be eligible to show up and be paid overtime for those events. But the general structure is they'd be working daytime 8 to 5 hours.
Okay. So overtime's expensive, okay. So my other question is the CSO officer, or position rather. So they're basically a community liaison representing the police force or the police office?
No, I would say that they are simply doing a specific kind of task that the police department already does. I actually would want the community engagement analyst to be dealing somewhat with that. We also have a community policing officer, Bobby Worth, who specifically does that community policing aspect of it. But this person would not necessarily be charged with going into schools to educate about that type of thing.
My question, so that's a different position that we already have? So that was like the former DARE officer?
No, he is the DARE officer, yeah.
He is the DARE officer?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's still a separate position?
That exists and will be funded, yes.
Okay, I thought maybe that was part of it. And then the police academy things, that's still going to be run by police versus, yeah, that kind of stuff. Who manages that? The same people we have now that are doing that? Okay. So in your budget that's kind of basically only making us $400 here in savings, is that including preparing an extra car for this officer, this CSO officer?
The car may already be the car it's the Equinox, I think, possibly. So it's a 2021 Equinox. We're already paying for maintenance and leasing on that vehicle, so there's no additional cost.
So it's minimal. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Ellen Raymond. First of all, I wanted to know, did you get my email advocating for a land planner?
We did receive your email, yes. Yes, we did receive it. Yep.
Okay. Because it's not read into the record, I don't know. So, second of all, the mayor mentioned that he wants to function at a level that residents expect, and so I'm just here to advocate for land planning, and Trustee Francis brought up an interesting point. I didn't know that in the past we had used outside planners because I've always spoken to Doug.
Oh, yeah.
So how does that work? Like if I call as a lawyer representing a client, with a zoning issue, who do I talk to at the village? Do I call you, Evan, and you direct me to an outside company? I don't know how that works.
I would say in 99% of the cases, it'll be a single petitioner, as you saw tonight, representing a single petition for what we'll call a simple petition. You would call me.
Call you.
If there's a comp plan update, we'd probably have a meeting between the three of us. I'd be involved in all those discussions, but I may need the expertise on that one project as was described by Trustee Francis. We'd meet as a group, talk about any issues or questions you may have, and then we establish a consensus or a work plan going forward.
So if you bring in an outside company, that's not paid by the developer, that's paid just like you would a land planner by the residents?
Correct. The
So
village.
they're working for the village?
Correct.
Because I have seen it both ways. And what is their knowledge? I feel like Burridge is very lovely and very unique in the larger tracts, and would they have that vision of Burridge that in-house land planner had? How much do they know about Burridge when they're brought in?
Well, that's why I specifically did not propose a full-time consultancy for the position's needs, because I want the residents and businesses who are going to ask about awnings or fences to have someone they can talk to 5 days a week. Probably, I don't work 40 hours a week, I work more than that, but I want them to have someone who is invested in the village, because I don't always know what the consultant is doing that particular day, especially in planning when they're going to be operating from their office. I don't really want to transfer them to Lake Forest or Lothian. I want them to continue to have the service of a staffer in that particular case. So that's why we did consider, both in the spring and now, doing a consultant. But to your point, I feel it's important that a staffer be retained, which is what has been proposed here, to allow for the residents to access the village's perspective or programs regarding zoning petitions overall.
The staffer being you're saying, right? And then the other thing you mentioned, that we were the last community to have a CSO, and I'm sure you're all aware all the neighboring communities have at least a land planner, or what they call a community development director, and even staff on top of that. When I call Hinsdale, I talk to multiple people. So I'm not sure why we don't need a land planner. I did bring a job description from the American Institute of Certified Planners, and I'm sure you all have been on the board long enough to know what a city planner or land planner does, which is to plot out the best use of land and geographic resources in urban areas. They make short-term, long-term goals about the use of land. So I'm a big land advocate, and I won't keep you here all night, but I do think it's a very important position. I do think even in the villages surrounding us, I don't think they have large tracts of unincorporated land that they're planning. I think they're just, I've been working lately with a new land planner who's excellent in Brookfield, which is a very built-out community, but they still need the expertise of a land planner. So when you balance, the outside consulting fees and the in-house, I hope somehow you find a way to, again, retain an in-house land planner that has the vision of Burridge the way it is now with the large tracts of land. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, do we actually need a motion you want a motion? Okay, then I therefore want a motion to approve the revised village organizational chart as described at tonight's meeting.
I'd like to make that motion.
I will second it.
Second, Mital. Any further comment? Any further public comment? Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Matal?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes.
Trustee Skiappa?
Yes.
Trustee Paveza?
Yes.
6-0.
6-0, the motion passes. All right, that takes us to item 9, public comment. Is there any public comment on any item that's on the agenda or anything else anybody else would like to comment on? You have up to 5 minutes. Okay, no public comment. That takes us to 10, reports and communications from village officials. Anita, I'm sure you have a couple.
I just wanted to share with everyone that we're deep into the planning process for Taste of Burridge, and we're working with the Village Center and Kaleidoscope and another organization to put that together, and we're really looking forward to a good participation. Social media has shown about 20,000 people are watching the event, so we're really looking forward to a good event. The concerts are going to start on August 5th, on Thursday, and they start at 7 p.m., so I hope everyone will enjoy the concerts provided by the village. And then, of course, there's yoga on the green and the farmers market if you haven't taken advantage of that. So lots of fun stuff happening in Burridge.
Right, concerts start August 5th, which is a Thursday.
Yes.
Not Friday.
Yes.
Thursday at
Goes
the
till 30th of September. No, actually, the last concert is with the Oktoberfest.
October 9, right?
Yes.
Also Thursday.
And the
Yeah.
10th is the car show.
Ah,
Yes,
October 10th car show.
yes.
I have to put that down. I might
Yes.
get my car in there. What about the new Corvette?
Could happen.
Okay, could happen. All right. Any other reports, communications from village officials? Yes.
Thank you. At the last meeting, we discussed a little bit about the tent program and about the noise coming from certain tents and about amplified music, DJ music, bands and such coming from the tents. And I made the suggestion that the tent program resolution be modified to prohibit that type of music and DJs, amplified music, electronically amplified, so as to preserve the peace and tranquility of the residents. Also, it goes beyond the scope, in my opinion, of what the tent program purpose was. The purpose at the time was to allow additional capacity for the restaurants that were suffering from reduced capacity caused by the governor's orders, and also currently it's to provide dining services for those patrons that don't feel comfortable going inside of restaurants yet, so they prefer to eat outdoors in a tent. So I was wondering if there's any other support from the board to modify this to prohibit modify our tent program to prohibit the amplified music, electronic music, DJs, and bands and such. I have a concern that it may happen again, and then we'll be back here again discussing this. So I was hoping to be able to, at a future meeting, modify this. Is there any support or comments from the other board members?
I just have a question. Weren't they supposed to ask for a permit if
Yes,
they
supposed
get a DJ or?
Supposed to be permit for,
Right.
yeah, and that hasn't been happening.
Right.
So, in the instances, my understanding, in the instances where the police were called for noise complaints, there were no permits in place.
Yeah.
Chief, was there a ticket issued for that? Because we get the adjudication system, so we'll have a CSO soon.
We had one citation, village ordinance citation issued for disorderly conduct, though, because we don't have another charging mechanism other than that.
Noise, so no.
We don't have a noise ordinance yet, which is one of the things we have to address.
So, but if we prohibited it in the tent program, then there's that mechanism. We could do that ourselves, as opposed to waiting for the noise ordinance to be.
I would support that.
Same here.
We could bring that up at the next meeting.
Aren't the tents coming down soon?
Yeah, it's supposed to end August 31st, right? Isn't that the approval? But
to Trustee Francie's point, that we need to put that into force so that we don't have a reoccurrence of.
I have no problem with that at all. If there's, I think he's using our process, asking for a consensus. If someone else will support putting it on the agenda, then we will put it on the agenda. So he's doing exactly so that we can have a
And I will
full
second it.
discussion. So he is following our process.
Right.
I would only note for the record, not to parallel from that, but August 2nd, we'll be starting the noise ordinance discussion at the Plan Commission level.
Okay,
Not to
so
take away from that.
If that starts August 2nd, then it may be continued to the next Plan Commission meeting. It may not get to the board level till September at the soonest. Meanwhile, the tents-
Maybe.
Maybe, if we're fortunate. But in the meantime, we still have a month plus of tent usage, and I just don't want a reoccurrence. I know the residents don't want a reoccurrence of any noise issues.
And I'm
Going to be
sure.
proactive at this point. I think we've given the tent users the benefit of the doubt, and in certain cases, it hasn't gone our way, so.
And I think for the residents also, it appears that we have their best interest in mind and we're doing something to preserve them.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and then as a policy going forward on the agenda, I am likely to put 7-0 and 6-0 votes of the Plan Commission on the consent agenda. And, we rarely ever overturn the Plan Commission. It does happen once in a while. So I think I'll just put it on the consent agenda for efficiency. However, of course, like any other item on the consent agenda, if you or a resident wish to discuss it, you just take it off like we did tonight, and but you will probably see those 7-0, 6-0 votes on the consent agenda. And I just want to give you the heads up. Yes.
I would agree with that, with the exception if it involves liquor.
Okay, fair enough.
We should always discuss those issues because.
Yeah, good point.
We certainly want to protect the residents. So.
Sure.
I should say alcohol, when it involves alcohol.
Yes.
Speaking of liquor.
Yes.
I know it's late, but I just wanted to bring to your attention. I want to go back to this Pella restaurant.
Pella.
Looking to open a 13,000 square foot restaurant, which I am excited about to see come to the village. But it's the largest restaurant in the village center. Bar and seating close to 500 people. There were 10 people in the audience, excluding staff, and 3 of the people were part of that petition. So 7 people here to talk about, to listen to that petition. And it just brings me to the point that the operator of Capri and Are We Live is singled out because of, I don't know why, but I'm just surprised that I didn't see more residents coming out to talk about the hours, the liquor, the amount of people that can sit in that restaurant. I'm just very surprised at the turnout. And it just gives me that further evidence that this operator is being singled out.
I think it was very evident that when the individual came forward and stated, how can this individual have a liquor, how, over and over, and it's the same individual, or individuals that bring up the same point each time.
Right. There were 4 people looking for Patty's, Kohler, Johnny Cab, and Are We Live? And she asked about one of those petitions.
Past.
Yes.
The future, the past. Which we've addressed, we've discussed it, we've closed it, again and again and again. Agreed. Thank you.
And she knows all about it.
Right.
Just does it, it's her right. That's her right. Okay, but thank you for bringing that up, because I think.
Good point.
I think you're correct. All right, and then finally, just a point to the residents. On my email, you see a phrase that says, consider getting fully vaccinated. Those of you that have not been vaccinated yet, consider getting fully vaccinated. Recent spikes in hospitalizations and death, some of the statistics I've seen, 99% of the deaths that are happening now are from unvaccinated people, and 97% of the hospitalizations are unvaccinated individuals. Please consider, if you're unvaccinated, whether or not you should remain unvaccinated. Now, with that, I'd like to get a motion to adjourn to August 9 at 7 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We're adjourned.